Search deeper, learn faster, do more. That's how I see the state of AI right now and the top 3 things that I think it's useful for. Let's dive right in with search. You may have noticed that when you search something on Google now, it's producing an AI block at the top of the page. I'm not sure whether this is to get people familiar with how AI works or ping their AI system more to show that more people are using it. But sometimes the results are helpful, and search is the number one way that I like to try to get people into AI. I started searching with ChatGPT when I would come up with something that I was going to put into Google. Instead, I would go to ChatGPT, put it in, and see how the model would react. This was how I kind of got an introduction into AI, how it worked, what it was useful for, just kind of like the early days of Google, where you would type in a question, see what it spat out. You might have to do some, prompt engineering to get your search criteria to give you the result that you were looking for. AI is no different. As we get into the tools and we start using them, you'll learn the inputs and outputs and how what you put into the prompt affects the outputs of the model. Now, there's other tools out there like Perplexity. It's kind of like an AI search engine. It'll bring back things like research papers, YouTube videos, blog articles, and more. ChatGPT and Grok have deep research now that do the same thing, and even Claude can search the web. These features now pull an impressive amount of data, and whenever I have something like a video idea, I'll go throw that idea into these different tools and see what different types of resources can come out of them that may spark some ideas. I'll put those into a research note as I'm working on the script and the talking points for the video. This helps me to tackle some more complex problems, get some different viewpoints, have some data backing up what I'm saying, and not just rely on my opinion for everything. And with all this search and deep research, I tend to be more curious about the topics that I am searching about, which leads to a lot more learning. And learning is the second thing on my list. I was recently on the Basic AF podcast, and we were talking about some of the new features in Apple Notes. Things like audio recording and transcriptions, the summaries of notes, things that would have been really helpful if I was in college, sitting in lectures, needing to record the lectures like we did, and then get a transcription that's automatically populated into Apple Notes. Now, you may not think of these things like AI, but a lot of these are machine learning powered. And the traditional AI models, ChatGPT and Grok and Perplexity and Claude, are using some of the same methods to generate their outputs. And I was kind of a terrible student. Not because I'm not smart, but nobody ever really taught me how to learn or tried to help me figure out how I learn best. I can see AI in the future being much better at that than college professors, right? You don't have to sit through a boring lecture or do hours of equations with meaningless numbers. You can go back and forth with AI on a different topic, come up with different ways that you might learn the information and retain the information better, rather than just the brute force memorization that I tried to power through college with. Next in learning, I'll say coding. Coding is, an important skill these days. Software engineers are in high demand, but for me, I'm a mechanical engineer. I don't really have a lot of interest in learning how to code. I'm sure I could pick it up and figure it out and learn it and do it at a pretty high level, but it's just not worth the time sink for me because I don't need it in my day job. And oftentimes, if I'm at home working on a project, this is where AI can help me along. If I need a Python script or, something simple that I know what it needs to do, I don't really know how to code it, but I have some command line interface skills, and I know enough to be dangerous, we'll say. The AI can help me write the code, and then I'm effectively acting like the debugger. I take the code, I try to run it. Does it do what I need to do? No. Okay, back to the AI, tell it what's going on, have it make some updates to the script, and eventually get to something that works pretty well. Like it gets me 95% of the way there. takes a lot of the headache out of trying to, learn the code at a level that I would need to make an effective script. And the tools have only gotten better. There's things like Claude Code now and Cursor out that if you are a programmer, those things can help you, work faster, make better code. Even people like me would be able to go in there and probably write some stuff that would effectively get what we needed done accomplished. But I do still think there's a fine line, right? You kind of do need that base level of knowledge. Like I said, you need to know how to run scripts. You need to have some command line interface, knowledge. You can't just go in blind, try to tell AI what you want it to do, let it do it. It might work in some cases, depending on how simple or complex, the problem is that you're working with. But I do still think you need that base level of knowledge. I don't know how we deal with that in the future, but that's how it stands right now, just like you did back in the day with Google. Next on my learning list is health information. I think this is a really cool niche that AI is helpful for. You ever gotten a test result back from a doctor and it's just total medical jargon and you don't know if you passed the test or failed the test? Do I need to go to the hospital? You can put these results into AI. Explain this to me like I'm a normal person with no medical training, and give you some ideas, really inform you to have a better conversation with your doctors, which that's what I've used it for. Said, hey, I think I have an issue going on. We go get some blood work. We go do some testing. I can have, all the data in a AI model, have it kind of explaining things to me. So when we have the follow-up appointments, we can have a better conversation about treatment options. What should we do? What are our next steps? When should we follow up next? That sort of thing. So I've shared how I use AI to search, gather information, but all of this is actually helping me to do more. Do more of what, you ask? Well, creativity is the first thing. And we got all these people going to college, doing these white-collar jobs now that are considered knowledge work. And for me, my brain still hasn't adapted to doing knowledge work 8 hours a day and then being able to function like a normal human being after the fact. So sitting at a computer, solving complex problems throughout the day, 8 hours or more a day, and then, being able to do the rest of the cognitive functions that I need to do throughout the rest of my life is challenging. I think a lot of people can relate to that. So creativity is no different. It takes a lot of brain power, and when you're working on something like a YouTube channel, trying to do a video or a podcast every week, that takes a lot of effort, takes a lot of brain power. And I'm not sure that humans have adapted yet to that level of cognitive function. At least I haven't. Tools like Spotter Studio can do things like thumbnail generation. They have a thing called the title exploder. So you put a title in and it'll give you a bunch of different options. Claude and ChatGPT can do similar things. You just have to prompt it in a brainstorming fashion. How you structure your story, they understand storytelling structure. The tools won't give you all the answers, but it definitely gives you a good place to start. Like I said, when I have a video idea, I start to do the research first. I have a, good thought about what I want the video to be. I have some talking points that I want to hit. I want to go see on the internet and other sources, other people who are reputable that have talked about these things that I could leverage in my video as well. So it helps me get from start to finish a lot faster than if I was doing this all on my own. If I was going to have to go to like Google Research or whatever they call it nowadays and find papers, find some other videos for people. It's very fragmented. The AI can help me pull all that stuff together, dump it into an Apple Note that gets linked to my script, and that helps me flesh out the idea quickly. And then lastly, in the doing category is automation, and that's using AI to do tasks that you don't really want to do. Now, this is a little bit cost prohibitive at the moment. Things like ChatGPT Operator is in their $200 a month plan. Yep, I said that right. $200 a month. So it's very cost prohibitive, but this thing basically operates the computer like you would. You can give it a task like, hey, they use the example, Go plan me a vacation to some destination and find me flights and hotels to book. And it'll come back with all of that information, an itinerary, and you can kind of do a one button click sort of thing where it will go book book the flights and hotels and all the stuff for you. Maybe if you're a rich CEO, that's cool, but usually you have an assistant to do that if that's the case. I can see that getting cheaper in the future though, and plenty of companies are working on getting their AIs to operate the computer like a human would. Gemini from Google is now built into Google Docs. So, if you're working on a Google Doc with a spreadsheet, it can analyze data live, give you suggestions if you're in a Word doc, all right inside of the software. And I've used AI for Excel formulas and setting up Excel spreadsheets and getting things formatted in a specific way, big data in, big data out, managing the formatting of all these things so it comes out and it does what you want it to do. So if you wanted to hear more about how to get started with AI, you can check out episode 8 of my For Perspective podcast, where I go through 3 different levels to get you started, and let me know how you're implementing AI into your workflow. Until next time, later.